The first time I just a minute, your backup arrived. Charlie 311, how you?
In Malaysia's criminal history, some cases leave behind more than just fear. They leave unanswered questions, broken families, and a long wait for justice. One such case is the brutal murder of a 17-year-old girl named Annie Koyi Chen in 2009. What began as a tragic discovery in a quiet home soon turned into one of most country-shocking investigations, uncovering the action of a man the media would call as Rainbow Bentong. For years, the case went cold, no fingerprints, no eyewitness, and no suspect. But thanks to the forensic science and DNA analysis, the truth finally surfaced and justice was reserved. In this video, we will explore the background of the both victim and the suspect, retrace the timeline of the crime, and understand how forensic evidence brought closure to the case that once thought as unsolved. Now we understand who Annie Koh Yin and Rabidin Satay were. Let's explore the details of the crime itself and how the case unfolds. So this case involves several serious offences under Malaysian criminal law, including house trespass, rape, and murder. The incident occurred on the night of 7 March 2009 in the victim's home located in Kampung Ketari, Bentong, Pahang. So Annie is a 17-year-old student who is believed to be using her computer in her bedroom at the time of the attack. And the suspect, Rabidin Satay, unlawfully entered the house, where evidence suggests that he removed several light bulbs inside the home to prevent being seen. Once inside, Rabidin made his way to the victim's room. According to forensic analysis, he sexually assaulted her and subsequently slashed her neck with a sharp weapon, likely a knife or parang, causing immediate death. Then the next morning, on 8 March 2009, at approximately 7 a.m., the victim's older sister discovered her body. Annie was found lying on the floor in her room, partially covered by a blanket with visible injuries and blood loss. Authorities were contacted immediately. Upon arrival, police and forensic teams secured the scene and collected biological evidence, including semen sample, from the victim's body and clothing. A post-mortem examination confirmed the cause of death as a deep incised wound to the neck. There were signs of a struggle, and the assault was classified as violent and sexually motivated. However, despite collecting DNA evidence, there were no suspects at that time. No fingerprints were found and no eyewitnesses could identify the intruder. As a result, the case remained unsolved for nearly 3 years. During this time, the victim's family, particularly the stepfather, faced public suspicions. However, these claims were unfounded as there were no forensic or testimonial evidence linking him to the crime. The turning point came in 2012 when Rabidin Satay was arrested for an attempt house break-in. As a part of the standard criminal procedure, a DNA sample was collected, and when the DNA profile was compared against unsolved cases in the national database, it matched the DNA from the 2009 Annie's case. This breakthrough led to his immediate arrest and a thorough investigation followed. Rabidin later confessed to the multiple crimes including Annie's case and was eventually sentenced to death and whipping for various offences including murder, rape, and robbery. However, despite collecting DNA evidence, there were no.
Hi, my name is Isamuddin bin Abdul Ghaffar. So I will present about the importance of DNA use in the forensics investigation, especially in the Rabidin Satay versus prosecutor case. So this evidence need to be found, collected before being analysed in the laboratory. So in this case, there are two types of the evidence that found in this case, which is the physical evidence and also biological evidence. So physical evidence is the sample that are tangible and can be collected physically. Meanwhile, for the biological evidence is referred as the sample is derived from the living organism, often used for DNA analyzing or identifying biological substance. So there are many things that be collected as the physical evidence, such as bed sheet that are contained with the blood stain of the victim, swab that are used for the suspect urine and the semen, and then we have the clothing item of the suspect and the victim. For example, a yellow t-shirt which labeled as A48. Moving on into the biological evidence, there are two main biological evidence. Firstly is about the blood stain on the bed and the victim body. Second is the semen found in the victim genital, type, and clothing. There are two types of evidence analysis used in this case, which are the DNA profiling of the blood specimen labeled as Y65, which belong to the suspect, Rabidin Satay, and compare it with the DNA found on the victim and at the crime scene. the SP7 Dr. Yuna Neswari and SP10 Non Aidora are forensic chemists who are responsible for analyzing this DNA profile. And then the SP8 Dr. Zahari conduct the postmortem examination of the deceased, which found that the causes of the victim deaths were the presence of the injury from the sharp object on the victim neck, and also have the presence of the homicide action, which there are lots of the fluid at the victim's vagina. And then they also comparing the specimen that are found in the crime scene and compare with the suspect, which is Rabiden Sateh, to confirm it that the semen is belong to the Rabiden Sateh or not. In Rabiden Sateh versus prosecutor case, forensic medical staff at the hospital bentuk appropriately seal the blood sample and label as the Y65, and which taken from the defendant Rabiden Sateh while he been held in custody. Dr. Yuna Neswari, a forensic chemist, examined the material after it was sent to the Department of the Chemistry. This analysis goal is to find the match the specimen of Y65 with the bloodstain that are found in the crime scenes. So after being analysed, Dr. Yuna Neswari confirmed that the DNA profile taken from the specimen Y65 is matched with the profile name of the male one, which is the unknown bloodstain that are found in the crime scene and on the victim body. This important match is proof that they have a clear connection between the accused and the crime by provide that the accused DNA was found in the victim body as well as on her parts of her clothes. Throughout this case, there are 3 expert witnesses that are contribute to this case based on their expertise. First is the SP7, who is the Dr. Yuna Neswari. She is the forensic chemist. She conduct the DNA profile comparison throughout this case, from blood to the semen on the suspect to the victim. Second is SP10, who is the Dr. Nur Aidora, also a forensic chemist. She prepared the initial DNA report based on this case. And lastly, we have the SP8, who is the Dr. Zahari Beno. He is the forensic pathologist. He conduct the autopsy of the victim, which he can confirm that the cause of the victim death is based on the sharp object trauma, and also found the penetration injuries on the victim body. So all these expert testimony were accepted in court, which is they are credible and cannot be challenged in the court.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Badrul Hanif, and I will continue with part 3, which is trials and courts. The trial took place at the High Court in Temerloh, Pahang. Rabiden was charged with 2 serious offences, which is murder under Section 302 of the Penal Code and rape resulting in death under Section 376(4). The victim was found dead in her home in a very disturbing condition. The postmortem showed that her neck had been slashed, and there were signs of sexual assault. It was a targeted and violent crime, and the prosecution was determined to prove his guilt. The case relied heavily on forensic evidence. DNA samples were collected from several areas, such as Annie's clothing, her body, and even the bathroom. All of this matched the DNA profile of Rabiden Sateh. The government chemist and a forensic pathologist testified in court. The chemist explained how DNA was matched, while the pathologist confirmed that Annie died from deep neck wounds and that the injuries were consistent with recent sexual assault. Rabiden denied all charges. He claimed that on the night of the incident, he had been drinking and passed out at a vegetable market in Bentong. He said he had never met Annie and did not enter her house. However, his defense lacked supporting evidence. He had no alibi, no witnesses, and no explanation for how his DNA was found on the victim and at the crime scene. The judge described his explanation as a mere denial, which is not backed by any concrete proof. Rabiden later filed multiple appeals to the Court of Appeal in 2015, the Federal Court in 2016, and a review application in 2024. His legal team argued that the DNA evidence could have been contaminated due to long-term storage. However, the courts rejected this, pointing out that the chain of custody was properly maintained and the DNA results remained consistent. Even the consent form used to collect Rabiden's blood sample was found to be valid. Therefore, all appeals were dismissed. During the 2024 review, Rabidin's lawyer asked for a reduced sentence, citing his health condition and physical limitations. However, the prosecution reminded the court of another serious case from 2012. In that incident, Rabidin murdered a man and raped his pregnant wife twice. It was a violent home invasion, and the court described the crime as extremely cruel. This additional history reinforced the court's decision to maintain the death sentence. Across all levels, in the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Federal Court, Rabidin Sateh was found guilty beyond reasonable doubt. The forensic evidence was clear, his defense was unconvincing, and the courts consistently upheld the sentence of death by hanging. This case highlights how forensic science can play a critical role in uncovering the truth and achieving justice.
Now, let's talk about how DNA was used as a concrete evidence in the Rabidin case. The crime occurred in March 2009, but Rabidin was only arrested in 2012. Despite the time gap, the police collected a blood sample from him and labeled it as Y65, and this was sent for DNA analysis. And then the forensic team compared that blood sample with the DNA found in the victim's body and on her clothes back in 2009, and the result shows a direct match. Rabidin's DNA was the same as male 1, the unidentified people found on the victim's vagina swab, underwear and tag. Even though Rabidin denied knowing the victim or being at the crime scene, the DNA placed him there. In court, the judge ruled that the DNA evidence was reliable, properly collected, and scientifically accurate. This evidence proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Rabidin was involved in the crime. So this case demonstrates that DNA can serve as a silent yet powerful testimony in the court. So forensic science is not just about collecting evidence, but it's about using scientific methods to analyze and interpret it. In this case, forensic science was applied at every step. This is how forensic science applied for the scientific method. First, crime scene investigators collected biological samples like blood, semen, and tissues from the victim's body, clothes, and the crime scene. Then a postmortem examination was conducted by a forensic pathologist. It revealed that the victim died due to a deep neck wound from a sharp weapon. There were also signs of sexual penetration suggesting rape. Next, forensic chemists analyzed all the samples in the lab. They used advanced DNA profiling to isolate the genetic code from the evidence and match it with Rabidin's blood sample. Importantly, all this evidence was handled through a chain of custody, meaning every item was tracked and sealed properly to prevent contamination or tampering. This scientific process gave the court strong, objective, and accurate information to make a judgment. Without these methods, the case might have remained unsolved. So, what can we learn from this case as individuals and as a society? First, we learn that science can speak the truth even when humans cannot. The victim in this case could not speak for herself, but the DNA she left behind helped solve the crime. That's a powerful reminder of how scientific tools protect justice. Second, it shows the importance of proper forensic procedure. The evidence was collected, stored, and analyzed carefully, and that made the result trustworthy. If done carelessly, the whole case might have fallen apart. Third, this case reminds us to be aware and vigilant in our communities. Crime like this highlight the need to protect vulnerable individuals, especially women and children, through education, awareness, and security systems. And finally, the case emphasizes why it's important for the public to trust evidence-based justice. Instead of relying on assumptions or emotions, court must base their decision on scientific proof, like the DNA. Alright, to conclude, DNA is not just a scientific concept, it's a powerful form of truth in our justice system. In the Rabidin Satir case, DNA was the key that solved the mystery, identified the criminal and gave justice to the victim and her family. As a society, we must continue to support forensic science, train experts and invest in technologies that helps to solve the crimes. We must also educate the public about the importance of evidence, due process and the rule of law. So, I hope this presentation gives you a deeper understanding of how science and law work together to uncover the truth and uphold justice. That's all for our group. Thank you.